Hello, welcome, and Assalamu alaikum. This is Faiz Rahman with your favorite show, Cafe DC. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Irfan Malik, who has been involved as a prominent Pakistani American in many activities, several good causes, not just for the Pakistani American community, but also for the US Pakistan relations. And he has had some impact. Recently, not actually recently, about a few years ago, 3 years ago, they started an organization called US Pakistan Foundation, which basically works closely with the youth, Pakistani American youth, and they prepare them for some leadership positions in this country. He also travels a lot between Pakistan and the United States and has a lot to say and a lot to tell us. So let's welcome Mr. Irfan Malik. Irfan Saab, thank you very much. Good to have you here one more time. So, well, US Pakistan Foundation, that's another feather in your cap, so to speak, to use this cliche. What do you do with that organization?
I mean, US Parks Foundation is a 501c3 organization registered in USA. And our main vision is to meet the aspirations and ambitions of Pakistani Americans. And in that regard, our focus is mostly on civil liberties, religious freedom, economic opportunities, justice for our people, immigration, those type of issues. But a subset of that, and which probably makes most of our work, is what you had just mentioned, our work with the youth, the Pakistani American youth over here. And the focus there is to develop their leadership skills so that they become the leaders for tomorrow, they become the policy makers for this country, and they can help the community in return and help improve US-Pakistan relationship in return as well. And in that regard, there are multiple things that we are doing for the youth. For high school students, we help them in getting admissions into the college of their choice. And what I mean by help
How do you do that?
Because
the system here is like, very strict. So.
Right. I mean, there's a process. So what we try to tell them is how we make them learn the process, that what sort of activities they should be doing in their high school years from 9th grade onwards to 12th grade. How should they be building up their high school resume? The kind of things that different colleges look for, and that varies from college to college and area of interest and all. So we prepare them in that regard, and what we do is we put them in touch with certain specialists who work in that area and who help them with those things. We also put them in touch with Pakistani American students who are in those colleges, who have been successful in securing admissions in those colleges, and help them guide these other students as to what did they do, what sort of essays they wrote for their college admission.
And I think sorry for the interruption, you hold these conventions, annual conventions, and I have attended those conventions. A lot of bright students from across the country, they gather together and they learn, the ropes, so to speak, of how to be successful when they get into their practical life. How's that experience?
I mean, that experience is again working out well. It's a long-term process because these are college students that we are talking now. And by the time they come into take a career, and by the time they are in a position where they can impact others, will be like at least a 10, 15-year project. And that's what we have embarked on. We feel that if we spend that money and resources on this youth right now, give them career guidance, get them into proper internships, try to help them secure the right jobs, then in 10, 15 years, they would be a resource for the community, and they will be very helpful in improving US-Pakistan relationship.
Irfan Malik, you basically answered my question partially with your last sentence. Here, we have several Pakistani American organizations. Some are on the West Coast doing a lot of good work in California. COPA is one of them, Council of Pakistani American Affairs, and several in the Midwest and here on the East Coast. And I see three main components of these organizations. Actually, the scope of these organizations. One is, of course, the Pakistani American community. And somehow these organizations also help societies in Pakistan, civil society organizations, they have a strong interaction with them. And then mainstream American society. How do you think your work fares on that level, that you're working not just, I mean, by working with the Pakistani American youth, you're also basically helping the mainstream American society for better integration and assimilation, and also you're creating and producing role models for Pakistani society in Pakistan.
Exactly.
So
You are absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of work an immigrant community or a new community has to do. And we can't do all. So what we have done is that we have to pick an area. And like I said, our organization has picked youth as an area. But in that, to make them good citizens of this country, I mean, one thing that we instill in them is this spirit of volunteerism. Because when they would volunteer in this country, they will, as you mentioned, they will assimilate much better. Their neighbors would think good about them. And that in turn would look good for Pakistanis, because when they are doing some good work, somebody will ask them, where their parents.
I mean, person-to-person interaction
Exactly.
is important.
And being good citizens for them, so that they can see that this person who has adopted this country as their homeland now is working for the betterment of this place, whether it is cleaning up your neighborhood, whether it is doing volunteer service in one of the homeless shelter, or anything else. I mean, as part of our conference, the leadership conference that you mentioned, we spend a full day doing volunteer work. And that could be either doing gardening, fixing up a street, or even, as I mentioned, making food for homeless people. So, all these things. And that, if these kids, when they come to this conference, when they go back to their hometown, if they do the same thing over there, that would improve the perception and image of Pakistanis living in America a lot. And like I said, that is related to the image and perception of Pakistan amongst an average American.
Irfan Sahab, to carry out your work day in, day out, you have to interact with lots of American institutions, departments, for example, the White House. I remember you took, these youth, these kids to the White House. They spent like almost half a day there meeting with very high profile officials at the White House. Then you have to interact with the State Department and several other foundations. So what do you think, how does the mainstream American society welcome your work and perceive your work? Draw some kind of a benefit out of this, some kind of advantage out of this work? And how is perceived outside our community?
All right. I mean, just to pick on that White House thing that you mentioned, we have taken over 500 students from various parts of the country to White House for briefings and other topics.
500 students.
Over 500, over a year,
Over a year.
like 4 years, we have taken them to White House. Now, the outside society, whether it's government agencies, whether it is private foundations, they are very responsive. They want us to be part of it. They have, in fact, they have special groups or special departments set up for this type of outreach work. The lack is more from our community. Our community is not aware that these resources are available to them. I mean, like many times when we take our kids to White House or to Congress, Capitol Hill, have them meet with a congressman or a senator, they are amazed. They are like, well, we never thought that we will be in a position to come to this building, let alone talk to a congressman or a senator. And we try to tell them that, look, this is your basic right. As a citizen of this country, these doors are open for you. You are the one who has not knocked at these doors. So I think our challenge is more at our community, not the resistance from outside the community that they are stopping us or they are putting roadblocks. It is from within our community that our community here is not fully aware of their rights and is not exercising their rights totally.
You talked about some challenges. We will take a small break here, And then when we come back, we'll get into the details of those challenges, especially why there are so many Pakistani organizations across the country, and why there is perceived infighting, and how do you stay, steer clear to accomplish your goals. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. Each week here at Cafe DC, I go one-on-one. Politicians, literary giants, activists, power brokers, and many more from different walks of life. And focusing on what matters is my cup of, shall we say, coffee. Matters that make a difference in the society. Watch me, Faiz Rahman, on Cafe DC every week only on PTV World. Welcome back. Okay, Irfan Saab, yes, everybody's doing a great job here, with good causes, good goals. But there are a lot of criticism of these groups as well. First of all, there are just too many organizations, and sometimes their goals clash, and not enough funding to go around, and not enough support in the community. So what do you think of that? I mean, don't you think the community should be better off by consolidating the resources and these groups, rather than just dividing and just the process continues?
I mean, that's a valid concern, but living in a democratic society, we can't stop that. And I would also say that if we look over other minorities, whether they are Chinese or Turkish or, and the mature minorities like the Jewish and the East Europeans and the Irish, they all went through this thing. They had all these multiple organizations doing different things. What we lack is focus and conflict. So we must develop some focus so that we are only doing a small subset of the total task, that we are not trying to be this organization that can do everything, because that's not possible. Our organizations are very small, our resources are limited, so we can't do everything. So if we can pick a niche, pick an area, and then just work on it and be good at that, I think that would be the main thing to do. As far as infighting is concerned, there is a lot of work and the pie is big enough. If we are sincere and mature enough that we can sit together and develop our bounds that, well, this is the area that I will focus on, then I think we can easily overcome that. You have an added problem that we see in the United States is the large size of the country. You talked about, what's happening
from New
in
York
West
to Los
Coast.
Angeles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's happening is West Coast.
3,000 miles in between.
Exactly. The need of those people may be somewhat different. The access those people have to different resources may be different, West Coast versus East Coast or Midwest or Southwest. So literally we can duplicate, let's say if there was an organization doing some work in East Coast, that work can be duplicated in other parts of the region. So you don't have to have infighting, you don't have to have the conflict of interest. One thing that I suppose we do need is lack of what I would say infiltration or interest in the Pakistani political parties, because that I think has sort of affected the work here.
Political chapters here of Pakistani parties.
Or even either direct political chapters or even organizations that are supposed to do civil liberties work or some other social work become like an instrument for those political parties. So when that happens, their agenda or their focus changes. So if we can stop that, and one thing that I've been promoting to my fellow Pakistani Americans here and to Pakistanis, that give us some time. Don't expect overnight miracles from us.
I think you touched upon a good topic because if you look at lots of other communities here in this country, even the closest in our own makeup, the Indian community, they don't have those political parties here. They hardly have, actually I shouldn't say they don't have at all. They hardly have any political chapters from back home. And you see lots of, there are so many other Indian organizations as well. I mean, they do a lot of good work, probably a lot of infighting and everything, but they seem to be more effective. You see prominent Indian Americans working in the federal bureaucracy, very prominent doctors, lawyers, what you call this Microsoft now,
CEO,
the CEO of Microsoft, a young guy who came here as a young
first generation,
and he's the CEO, the third CEO of one of the largest world international companies. So, but let me just go back to this funding issue, and I want to bring up one delicate topic here. Pakistanis are also divided on different fronts. A lot of their funds, their monies go to religious organizations, and there are mosques in the neighborhood, and they hardly seem to put a premium on non-religious social organizations. That has been a complaint that I have been hearing so very often. What needs to be done here in terms of a balance that make them realize that mosques are of course very important. We need to put in resources there for cultural enrichment, but at the same time there are other needs of the community which needs to be fulfilled. What are you doing on that count?
It's a very interesting question, and research was done a few years back on the giving of Pakistani Americans. And what that study found, that Pakistani Americans on average give $1 billion worth of money in various forms over a year.
$1 billion with a B.
With a B,
Yes,
and dollars. However, that when you read further, it was money, not just dollars, but time spent as well, volunteer time spent as well. But what I wanted to highlight from that study was not the $1 billion, but that study divided the giving in 3 different areas. And as you mentioned, one was giving it to the mosque, which was for religious, I should say, religious purposes, which was bulk of that time and money given. The second recipient was charity given to Pakistani institutions in Pakistan.
For back home,
Pakistan,
yes.
Which again is a very noble cause and much needed.
For example, Eidi organization, Eidi Foundation.
Shaukat Khanam, all these TCFs, the Citizen Foundation, all these organizations. And as I said, they are doing noble work and it's really needed. They need all the help we can provide. The last one is the money that they give to charity or organizations that are working for the betterment of Pakistani Americans or other minorities here in US. And I feel that the order should be reversed, that the organizations that are working here.
So the religious givings were the largest,
they get the
and then back home,
right,
second largest, and then the minimum is the most, the smallest amount was given
exactly,
to basically, yes.
Because people feel that, well, here you have an organization in America, you don't need money, you don't need resources, whereas they are the ones that
and that's
need
a very
the most.
Common misperception, Irfan sir. People think, I mean, you mentioned this amount, $1 billion. That's a lot of money, right, in dollars.
Substantial
yearly contribution to the society. But with this, you get this impression as if the community overall is very well off. We don't have our issues. We don't have any poor people who need our help. But on the contrary, the Pakistani American community has huge issues. There are domestic violence issues. There's a lot of poverty, jobs, kids who aren't doing very well. So very well said. I mean, the order should have been the opposite.
It definitely needs to be, and again, this point that you have picked up, the economic well-being of Pakistani Americans living here. A survey was done by Asian Americans, which again, we should be doing it, but Asian Americans did it and included Pakistan as a subset. And what they found was, and this is about like 3 years old study, that over 30% Pakistani Americans don't have health insurance. Close to about 25% Pakistani Americans are living in crowded homes where there are more than one family living in a home. The median income of Pakistani Americans is less than the minorities that are out here. The education
Let me
level-
repeat this, please. What you're saying is more than the average in this country, they don't have medical insurance, health insurance. in this
30%
country.
of Pakistani Americans don't
and
have
I think the
health.
average is about 24% in this
Something
country,
like
something
that,
like
yes.
that. So 30%. Plus our average income
It's
is
less than
much less than the average
median.
income in this country.
Right,
And then the household, the number in household is way large.
It's twice as much
Yeah.
what the others,
Yes.
average American.
Right.
So
So
as
how
a-
does these two figures correspond? Like, on the one hand, you see this giving, and there was another number thrown out by another study, actually by a friend of mine. He said that, it's our total worth, the Pakistani American community is like over $17 billion or something. I may be a little off on the exact number, but the number was in billions, giving the impression as if Pakistanis are very, very rich.
Right, which is I think is not really the case. I mean, first of all, it's very difficult since we, in fact, that is one of the things that we try to do as an organization. We try to ask Pakistani Americans to participate in surveys, participate in census. Our people don't participate in census. So, to get these studies done, it's very difficult. Now, why I bring that up is that officially, there are only, from our Census Bureau, there are only 420,000 Pakistanis living, or people of Pakistani heritage living in the United States. Estimate is the actual number is about 3 times that. And even if that 3 times is not correct, even if, let's say, it's twice as much, the remaining, the 500,000 or 1 million people that are not accounted for are the ones who are living in these overcrowded homes, who are living, who don't have health insurance. They are the ones who are not been counted for. So when you see people, there are some very influential, successful Pakistani Americans, doctors, lawyers, engineers, businessmen. They are, but they are a handful. When you go and visit the areas of
That's
Coney
why
Island,
your work
exactly
is so important.
It's highlighting that majority
Right.
that is not being looked at.
That should be the focus of these organizations' work. Irfan Saab, you travel a lot between Pakistan and the United States, and of course there are several misperceptions in Pakistan about the Pakistan-US relations and about America's work in Pakistan and several other issues. So we'll come back after a short break here, and then we'll basically try to find out through your experience in Pakistan what's going on and how can the Pakistani American community make the situation a little bit better. So stay with us, we'll be right back. Each week here at Cafe DC, I go one-on-one. Politicians, literary giants, activists, power brokers, and many more from different walks of life. And focusing on what matters is my cup of, shall we say, coffee. Matters that make a difference in the society. Watch me, Faiz Rahman, on Cafe DC, every week only on PTV World. Welcome back. Okay, Irfan Saab, so basically we were trying to find out through your travels to Pakistan that what are some of the challenges that you see as a Pakistani American in Pakistan and how the situation can be improved.
I mean, the biggest challenge that I see between the two countries and their respective population or citizens is lack of trust. Both sides are not trusting each other, and both sides are what I would say in a forceful friendship, which I suppose the community, the citizens of Pakistan, the Pakistani Americans who are living here, and the American citizens and the Pakistani citizens, they can play a major role in removing that. And what the Pakistani American community can do in that regard is improve the image of Pakistani Americans and Pakistan amongst their neighbors. And that, as I mentioned earlier, through their work, through their
And that foundation,
exactly, through being good citizens. And now, the other aspect that's, and another thing that I would add to it, that our people, the Pakistani Americans, they are not going to the policymakers. They are not going and talking to the congressmen. They are not attending seminars at different think tanks that are taking place. So when you are not present at those meetings, the decisions, the discussion that takes place is very negative, and there's nobody to defend the other side. So we as a community over here need to be more vocal about things.
Have to be on the table and make sure that we be on the table.
And we can't defend everything that happens in Pakistan, just like, you know, when we Pakistani Americans go back home and people ask us about United States, we can't defend every action of United States. There are some good, there are some bad. But what we have to look at the balance. So the Pakistani Americans, if they can do that, get more involved, you know, with the policymakers here, with think tanks and other, you know, places, whether it is writing books about Pakistan or whether it is having more, you know, TV programs about Pakistan, how Pakistanis live, what is an average Pakistani do. So that those type of things would help a lot. Similarly, when we go back home, we need to bring that very message home as well, that, you know, I mean, how we are living here, what sort of religious freedom we have over here, what we can, economic freedom we have here. Another perception, I suppose, that we touched in our earlier section was that the Pakistanis have this impression that the Pakistani American community is a very rich community. So we have to go back and clarify that perception. Now,
it's a mix of like, you know,
exactly,
they are just like any other community.
Exactly, like any other. So once if this grassroots thing among the people of Pakistan and people of United States, if that perception can be removed, then I think at policy level, at government level, things would start improving. And the biggest, I think, impact that will happen in improving this relationship is that when our youth would be in those policy making decisions for United States, when they will be sitting in State Department, when they will be sitting in USAID, when they'll be sitting in White House staff, you know, making decisions.
By the way, there are quite a few already, some Pakistani brilliant
exactly there are, and those are the role models, you know, that we need to clone them, we need to make more of them, and these people, as you mentioned, those who are there right now, give them another 5-10 years and they will be a lot more prominent and they'll be a lot more influential in their decision making. And I think that would help the US-Pakistan relationship a lot. I mean, this whole thing is nothing new. The Jewish community did this. We just have to follow them. The Indian community is doing it. Yeah. And the Turkish community is right behind them. They are doing it. If you look at the US-Turkey relationship, they have improved a lot because of the Turkish-American community. Now,
and so is the Armenian-American community. It's very, even though such a tiny little country, but
exactly.
Their community here is very impactful.
But the reason is that they have the checkbook and they are in the offices. They are in the offices where the decisions are made.
Irfan Saab, we have to end our discussion here. It's a pleasure having you here on Cafe DC. Viewers, thank you very much for watching another program of Cafe DC. Please don't forget to visit our website, urduvoa.com. This is Faiz Rahman in Washington, DC, saying goodbye until next week.